couple days. I'll have the link then, but until then, we're just going to go over the next step. Now, we talked about the hero, right? Being the hero, and you are not the hero. You are the guru to the hero. Your client's the hero. Now we're going to look at the hero has a problem. Okay. Now you as the guru, you're going to resolve that problem as the guru. But a lot of people talk about the external problem. So what Donald Miller says here is Microsoft versus Apple, right? So Microsoft, I don't know if you remember this commercial back in the day, but there was this hipster, they didn't have the word back then, but there was this hip guy, and he's like, hey, I'm hip and I have an Apple. And then there was the nerd, and the nerd was Microsoft. And what Microsoft was saying was, hey, we have in our operating system, we do this and this and this and this, and you can do this in our operating system. So they were talking about the external problem. The internal problem was the frustration trying to learn all the things that Microsoft talked about. So they got brought out this hipster guy, right, with a beard, and he was all saying, they didn't have a beard back then when they were hipsters. They were just these good looking, you know, we called them yuppies back then, right? So the deal is that guy was just saying, look, all I want to do is listen to music and take pictures. And then I want to look at them. And I don't know how I'm going to do that, right? So that was the internal problem, was the frustration of knowing how to use a computer. Now, if we were looking at this in a movie term, like within Star Wars, Luke didn't know if he had what it takes to overcome the Empire. Okay, so he had to fight the Empire. His uncle told him, hey, you know what? You're too young. He's like, I don't know if I have what it takes. And then he had all these issues with the good versus evil, which is the philosophical. So that gets into these three things. I got these notes right here. So we got the external, the internal, and the philosophical. So the external issue that Luke had was that he was too young. The internal was he didn't think what he had to take it. And then the philosophical was good versus bad. Like, he's a good guy and he has to wipe out the bad people in the universe, apparently, and he didn't know how he's going to do that. So he had to find some people to help them. He had Obi-Wan Kenobi, then he had Yoda, he had all these gurus to help them. So remember, you are the guru in your company. So you want to look at what is the external issue that your client has. For instance, with mine, the external issue is my clients, they have too many leads. Now, I know you're saying, how can you have too many leads? Well, not only do you have too many leads, but you have the Glenn, Gary, Glenn Ross leads that your new people are burning those leads. You'll give them a good lead and they'll go, hey, you don't want to buy this, do you? And you're like, give that lead to the good person, but they already burned the leads, right? So you have that issue. Then the internal frustration that my clients have is the frustration of the leads not being delegated to the right people, the Glenn, Gary, Glenn Ross leads going to the wrong people and not being able to follow up with them. So they're very frustrated. They don't have any way of managing their leads. And then the philosophical thing is they're really trying to make a difference. They're trying to, like most of you you have a great core values and you're trying to overcome the people that are taking your clients and ruining them. I'll give you an example. These people that say, pay me $10,000 and I'll teach you how to be a life coach, I'm totally against that. And the reason I'm against that is I fell for it. I paid someone $4,000 over a decade ago to become a life coach, and I ended up being a marketer. So it worked out for me, right? And I was making money doing it, but I don't think I got the return on my investment. So the deal is that you want to look at what is your external, right? So what do they want? What is the internal? What is the feeling? What is the most motivate, or what is the emotion? What is the frustration that your client has? That's going to be the internal thing that you solve, right? So we can talk a little bit about Starbucks. A lot of people at Starbucks, you know, they sell a $4 coffee. Well, how do they do that? I don't know if you guys remember this, but when Starbucks came out, you know, it was all about the community. You had a place where you could go, where you could talk to strangers. No longer was it over a booth at Denny's having a cup of coffee and talking with your friend. You could just go into this room and just talk to strangers. And even if you're an extrovert or an introvert, it was comfortable, right? But here's the little secret that a lot of people forget. There's a company, a new company called T-Mobile. And if you had a T-Mobile account, you could pay $35 a month and you could connect to the internet in the Starbucks and talk with all your friends. A lot of people don't talk about it. I totally remember it, but you had to pay the 35 bucks a month to T-Mobile in order to connect to the internet at Starbucks. And then now everybody has wireless, it's free. But that's how it all began. And people were paying for $4 a cup of coffee and $35 a month so they could talk to strangers, okay? And now they're a multi-zillion billion dollar company. Okay, so the external, the internal, and the philosophical. Now, I want you to think that at the end of Star Wars, right, what did Luke do? In one shot, he blew up the Death Star. So he solved the external, right? The external was he's too young, right? Well, he just proved that wrong. The internal is, do I have what it takes? Well, he blew up the Death Star, so he had what it takes. And the philosophical, the good versus evil, done. In one shot, he resolved those three issues, those problems, and he was the hero. So how do you get your client to resolve the external, the internal, and the philosophical in one shot? We're going to be going over that the rest of the week, but right now, we need you to figure out what are the problems that your client has, the external, the internal, which is going to be the frustration, and the philosophical, which is going to be the why. Okay, so go ahead, write that down on a piece of paper, figure it out. Get Story Brand by Donald Miller off of Amazon right now. Just Google it, buy it, have it sent to your house. I promise you, you won't regret it.